नमस्कार एंड वेलकम टू RCI नवशिखर चैनल। RCI के नवशिखर चैनल में हमारे सभी दर्शकों का स्वागत है। आज के हमारे प्रोग्राम का टॉपिक है अडैप्टेशन ऑफ करिकुलम, टीचिंग मेथोडोलॉजी एंड इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर इन स्कूल फॉर अ सक्सेसफुल इंक्लूजन। एंड टुडे वी हैव विद अस Mrs. Anju Saxena, Academic Coordinator, Shri Ram School. Welcome to RCI Navशिखर channel.
Thank you.
Progressing further, I would like to inform our viewers that they can call us for the any queries. हमारा टोल फ्री नंबर है 1800112008। हमारा स्टूडियो नंबर है 26511613 और हमारा फैक्स नंबर है 26511609। जैसे कि आज के टॉपिक के बारे में हमने बताया, आज हम बात करेंगे इंक्लूजन। एक सक्सेसफुल इंक्लूजन के लिए जो अडेप्टेशन ज़रूरी हैं, कहाँ कहाँ ज़रूरी हैं और हमें अडेप्टेशंस कैसे करनी चाहिए, वेदर इट बी इन करिकुलम और द टीचिंग मेथोडोलॉजी और द इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर इन स्कूल। इन सब चीज़ों में अगर हम अडेप्टेशन करें, सो हाउ कैन वी हैव अ सक्सेसफुल इंक्लूजन। आज इसी टॉपिक के बारे में हम बात करेंगे। लेकिन टॉपिक के बारे में आगे बढ़ने से पहले मैं आपसे पूछना चाहूँगी कि जैसे हमने बात करी अडेप्टेशन के बारे में, तो बेसिक हम किस पॉपुलेशन को टारगेट कर रहे हैं, डिसेबिलिटी में किस पॉपुलेशन को हम टारगेट कर रहे हैं।
यूजुअली व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट इंक्लूजन, जब हम इंक्लूजन की बात करते हैं तो हम, अगर आप पॉपुलेशन के लिए पूछते हैं कि कौन से पॉपुलेशन को हमें यूजुअली टारगेट करते हैं, तो वी लाइक यूजुअली टारगेट चिल्ड्रन विद माइल्ड डिसलेक्सिया और माइल्ड ADD और माइल्ड अदर प्रॉब्लम, माइल्ड टू मॉडरेट प्रॉब्लम्स, बट हु हैव an intelligence, who can be in the mainstream and who can follow the mainstream curriculum, but in an adapted way.
So basically more about the dyslexic and the ADD.
More about LD, children with specific learning difficulties, or children with ADD, or maybe some children are under the spectrum also, but into a mild, like they're in the mild category, not the moderate category, not moderate to severe category basically.
पर मैम जैसे हम बात करें इंक्लूजन के बारे में, बहुत आजकल इंक्लूजन का हम बात कर रहे हैं, why not the other disabilities? Why only the inclusion is restricted to the mild mentally retarded or the borderline people or the ADD or the dyslexic? Why not the other groups?
No, we take children with physical handicap also, but and with hearing impairment also, with low vision also. But when we talk about the mainstream inclusion, when a child goes to a mainstream class, then they have to follow the mainstream syllabus also.
Right.
So for a successful inclusion, it is a must that they should have at least intelligence at par, so that they can follow the mainstream curriculum, not at their pace but at par, at par, but with the limitation, you can say, with the special support or with one-on-one teaching also.
So in a way we can say that the adaptations which we are going to do, they must be in consideration of these group of people, so that adaptations in some way they must be like suitable for these children who have some limited level of intelligence, not below,
because how will they do, how will they follow the syllabus? So for them you have to have separate classes, separate sections where a special educator can teach 4-5 children who have very much special needs, or who are only working at a level where you really need to adapt the curriculum, or you really need to maybe you need to change the curriculum also,
Okay. So can we have a look at the slides?
Yeah. So like as you look here, adaptation of the curriculum, teaching methodology and the infrastructure for a successful inclusion of children with special needs. So here when we talk about the adaptation, we are not only talking about the curriculum, but we are talking about the infrastructure also. हम स्कूल में किस तरीके से infrastructure में changes ला सकते हैं, because curriculum में we are not only talking about again academic, we are not only talking about books and following the books and then attending the lectures, but changes in infrastructure is also a must, because children have to follow the syllabus by sitting inside the class also,
right?
And when they go to a playground, they have to play with others also. So inclusion is not only in a classroom, but it is all, it's everywhere.
Exactly.
In school,
not just restricted to curriculum.
Yeah.
Only.
So like if we read that, if we look at the first slide, adaptation is a modification of the curriculum, and in addition to the curriculum, adaptation of a teaching methodology and the classroom infrastructure is a must to develop a child in all the area. What adaptation means? Modification, as we all know, making it suitable for your for you to live in, So in the same way, adaptation here, when we talk about adaptation, it is about changing the curriculum. How can you change the curriculum? How can you modify it, or how can you make it more simpler, so that our children who cannot take the mainstream curriculum as it is, they can also benefit from the same curriculum but in a different way.
And it's not just like, if we talk about the adaptation or the
Yeah.
modification, not just restricted to the school but also into the family environment,
Yeah,
and the transition to different environments,
Yeah.
if we specifically talk about.
Yes, in a playground situation, or
Yeah.
when you talk about transport,
Yeah,
traveling
right.
from one place to another. So in that way also, adaptation means just a modification so that it can be suitable, you know, it is suitable for all type of children, not for only one kind.
Right.
So it has to be done in almost all the areas, you know, in everywhere, I think.
But in like many inclusive schools, what we have seen, although they are following an inclusive model, but the children, the special needs children, they are attending the classes in the different classrooms, not with the normal peers, but only
Yeah.
for the for the playground purposes, or like for the assembly purposes, they are just mingling.
Yeah.
That's it. They're following that inclusive model. So don't you think that's a wrong concept which these schools are taking?
I will not say it's a wrong concept, because when you look at the school, and when they have children, they don't like, they have children with mild problems also, but at the same time they have children with other very much special, like I will say, like suppose if we have children with mild dyslexia, and I'm also working in inclusive school, and as you are saying, I think that's right, most of the children are like, you know, coming together for assemblies, coming together for
Right.
play, but when the classroom teaching is concerned, only a few children can be integrated with the mainstream. Why? Again, the reason is that, like, there are only a few children who can follow the mainstream curriculum with the mainstream, sitting
Right.
in the mainstream, in a mainstream class. But for those children who are not able to do that curriculum, but they are able to study, then we can also, you know, look at the other curriculum. Like if a child is attending a mainstream curriculum which is ICSE based, then we can have separate sections with the CBSE based curriculum, and we can really
Right.
adapt the CBSE curriculum to a functional, again, when we adapt the CBSE curriculum, we sometimes we adapt it functionally, sometimes we adapt it to 30-40% adaptation we do, so that we can make it more simpler for them. So again, children, each child is a different child.
Exactly.
So depending on their abilities, we make the groups. Some of them can be included in the mainstream for academic also. Some of them have to be, you know, they have to take separate classes with the different curriculum, and other children who are not able to do at all academics, you know, then we can always look at the pre-vocational curriculum also, which is more of a functional curriculum, less of an academic curriculum.
And like in these inclusive schools, like obviously the children with special needs are coming, obviously they must be having behavior problems and all. How to deal with the parents, like the parental queries of the normal peers, of the normal
Yeah.
students?
Yeah.
How to deal with that? They
No,
must be
we
very
do get, yeah, you're right, we do get parental queries also, but as I will also talk about it, it's not only a role of a special educator in an inclusive school, it's a role of the school counselor also. So when we work with these parents, we work as a team, and sometimes we do get these queries, and the school management and then the school counselors also, they deal with these parents, they talk to them when they same like at the time of admission also, we convey the parents, we convey this information to parents that yes, this is the school where children with special needs are also studying. At the same time, you know, when your child is coming, so they should be very clear about it, like where they are sending their child. And if we have children with special needs, we can face these problems also. So we also sensitize the children by involving counselors, by involving the school principal, by involving the mainstream teachers. So it's not the role of only the special educator, but it's a role
Right.
of the whole team.
Exactly. The whole team, it should look
Yeah.
into that matter. And the parents must have been like their inhibitions and their
Yeah.
queries. So it's a duty of all those to solve that. So
And when a child enters the school, like I would like to mention here also, right from PV to class 2, we have a complete inclusion. That is 100% inclusion we have, where all the children are going to a mainstream class only, whether they are with moderate abilities or with the mild abilities. Towards the end of the class 2, we find out like, okay, this child is not able to do in the mainstream, you know, in the mainstream class, and or this child is only able to do with extra remediation. So it all depends on children's abilities, and after that we really like sort them out, and we take some children specially which like especially in the sense, like I'll say, we take some children different in a different classroom, in one-on-one teaching we take them, and we teach
Okay.
them in that way. And some of the children are like, they are just going to the mainstream class with the shadow teachers, a shadow special educator who is there as a regular support for them.
don't you think जो inclusive schools हैं, they have an advantage in the kind कि if there is a normal school and a child is going to that school, suppose he is around 3 and 4 years of age, and the normal school teachers, they are not very well equipped at identifying the problems such as dyslexia or ADD. But once they are going to a setup who is which is having the special children as well as the normal children, so they kind of have an early intervention at an early age. These small children, don't you think this is it's a kind of advantage which inclusive school provides?
Yes, it is a kind of advantage, and this is what we have seen, that children really benefit. Children who are having only 1 or 2 mild signs or mild symptoms, they really benefit.
Exactly.
And they really benefit from this kind of infrastructure, because that is the time, that is the golden period in their life. If they get early intervention, they get they get intervened. And we'll also talk about intervention, why it is important. It is really important for them to develop at that stage. So they really benefit. They benefit from this kind of infrastructure.
Then can we have a look at the next slide? So we talked about the adaptation. The next
so adaptation is when you change the volume and the complexity of the curriculum also. Like suppose if you only look at the curriculum now, and when we talk about the curriculum, then we can say that yes, how we adapt the curriculum, by changing the volume, by reducing the volume, that means,
exactly,
or by reducing the complexity of the curriculum. We really look at the books. When we adapt the curriculum, we look at the books for the whole year. We look at the book, and then we really look at those chapters which are really useful in day-to-day life. Then we take out those chapters which we think that are not relevant or important for higher studies. And if our children are not able to do higher, we know the prognosis also sometimes that okay, they will some of them would not be able to go for the higher studies. So why to involve these many complex these complex chapters? So it all depends. So depending on the complexity and the volume of the curriculum, we change it.
I would like to ask you a question here. As you said, changing the volume and the complexity of the curriculum. So this is decided by the special educator only, or there is a certain like school board?
Like as we know that it's a team. This is the teamwork,
right?
And suppose a teacher, a special educator who has been teaching and who has that experience of adapting the curriculum, then we sit there as a team. The academic coordinator along with her team, we sit together, we adapt the curriculum, we look at the curriculum, what is relevant, what is not relevant, how much we can reduce, how much we cannot reduce. So it is a teamwork.
Okay.
So as a team, we decide what to include and what not to include, and after that we give those responsibilities to every person depending on the subjects.
Okay. So it's decided by the team.
Yeah, it's decided by the team.
Then the next point,
it is also a change of teaching methodology. As we are as I'll give you one example. In a mainstream class, suppose a teacher comes and does conventional teaching, she just writes it on the board and goes away. So sometimes when we have children with hearing impairment in our classroom, and we have children with who take longer to understand also, and there are children who have you can say that who are very good with their auditory memory, but they are not good with their visual memory. So looking at each and every child, suppose if teacher knows the children that they have these problems, then they can really adapt the teaching methodologies, like looking at mind maps, looking at overhead projectors, looking at PowerPoint presentations. So how can you make it so multisensorial? How can you apply your multisensorial approach in applying the teaching strategies? It all depends on the teacher, how can she modify the teaching methodology. But we can really, as special educators, we can guide them, like this is the way, because we have children suppose there is one child with hearing impairment and teacher is just speaking about the topic, how will he understand?
Exactly.
So you have to visualize the whole topic also. But how can you visualize it? Okay, let's take a topic and make a PowerPoint presentation on it, or we can make a model on it, or on your board, on your blackboard, you can make a big mind map.
Right.
So through mind map, he can stick the pictures, he can, it can be more visualized for him. So that way he can understand it better.
And as you said, every child has unique needs, every child
is different. So if teacher knows her children, nothing like it,
exactly.
Then if she can adapt her teaching methodology, that would benefit the children.
And sometimes it's not just restricting to the books only, as we have read the shaping, training and these reinforcing. It's not just restricted to book only. The teacher can devise the methodology or the strategies by himself or herself, depending upon the child's need.
Yeah, and how creative you are in your
teaching.
So that is also adapting teaching methodologies. Basically, adapting teaching methodologies is nothing. It's just how can you be creative in your classroom?
Exactly.
How can you teach so that each and every child is learning?
Right.
So that is what is adaptation in teaching methodology. Adaptation of question papers can also be done. One can simplify the paper according to the ability of a child. I'll just give you again, I would like to give an example here. Suppose if a mainstream child is taking a paper which has 10 questions, and out of 10 questions 7 are subjective and 3 are objective. But here when we teach children with special needs, especially when we are teaching children with dyslexia, so what we can do, we can really simplify our paper by making it more objective. More objective question answers like multiple choice question answers, fill in the blanks, true and false, and then giving more and more choices to them, and that way, and we can reduce the number of questions also. And when we are asking for definitions, especially when we are asking for definitions, you can make the answer in multiple choice so that they can choose the right answer, and by that way you will know that they know the concept. It's only that language problem which they are not able to express themselves in writing.
Exactly.
So in adaptation of question papers, we also sometimes, what we do, suppose the mainstream children are taking the question paper of 40 marks, but we give our children question paper of 20 marks, then we double it up. When we have to give a report card, we can easily double it up, because we know that our children cannot take that much, but they can take this much. So depending on the volume, depending on the complexity of the questions, you can modify your questions also.
And like जैसे हमने teaching methodology के बारे में बताया, तो it's not just related to teaching methodology, but I would like to add on here. Suppose like if there are 2 children having ADHD, and there's a exam is to be held from 9 a.m. and before that they want to vent out their energies. So for one, they want to with the squeeze ball which is coming, and the other wants to play into the sand and all
just
that,
to
jumping
calm them down, just to cool them down. Yeah.
So 2 ADHD children are there, but the methodology or the strategy is different for both of them. One is squeezing the ball to vent out his energy, and the other is playing in the sand or the mud or jumping onto the trampoline to vent out his energy. So that's what we are trying to depict here. Means the needs of the children are different.
Yeah,
so the
each child is different child,
So the teacher should adapt according to that, or change the strategy according to that. Okay. Then moving on to the next slide, what we are going to discuss now.
Here we talk about accommodation, but again accommodation, and when you see adaptation and accommodation, almost same, same in the sense that I'll not say that these are the same terminologies, sorry, but accommodation is more of compensations. I'll explain it again. Like accommodation can adjust the presentation of material and information to the students, or the production demands on the students. Like accommodation can adjust the presentation of material. Like a few minutes back I was talking about it. A teacher can make a big mind map on the board, or a teacher can make a good PowerPoint presentation to make the chapter more clear to them, to explain the chapter. So accommodation means here, like suppose if a child is not able to understand in a way, then you can change your ways. You can change your ways of teaching again, and you can in that way you will really accommodate that child also in a classroom situation. That way, that's what I'm saying. Like almost there's a confusion in these two terms, because here you are compensating. If a child is not able to write notes, but I'm asking him to type it, he's able to type it. So you're giving that kind of compensation. Okay, now you're not able to write it, but you can copy it down, you can type it down, and you can give me your notes. In the same way, if my child is not able to learn from the blackboard, so I can make a presentation for him.
But it's the kind of changing strategy only.
Kind of changing strategies only, but again, here we are not only talking about the input, we are also talking about the output.
Okay.
Like we are making some accommodations. Like I just told you that, okay, if a child is not able to take the question paper of 40 marks, we make it for 20 marks. Right. So that is a kind of accommodation what we are doing. Okay. So it's almost, it's overlapping. What I would like to say here, it's overlapping.
Or we can say it's two sides of the same paradigm.
Two sides of the same, yeah. So that way, and then we also expect like, okay, suppose my child is not able to give me a project today only. He is a slow writer. He cannot write it in a day, and after he can submit it to me after 2 days. So that much accommodation I can do it. I can give it. Okay, you are not able to submit it today. I know, because in exam papers we give them extra time.
Right.
Many children are there. Like today also we had 4 children who could not write that paper in write down that paper in 1 hour time. So I gave them 20 minutes extra. So that is also a kind of accommodation. Okay, I'm accommodating in that way. You're not able to give it in 1 hour, you can take 20 minutes extra.
But like we talked about adaptation more in
Yeah.
the sense of curriculum, teaching methodology, and the infrastructure in the school.
Yes.
But how we can say about the accommodation within the curriculum or the teaching strategies?
Like when we talk about the accommodation, like as you mentioned also earlier, that sometimes it is very difficult for children to sit in a mainstream class. So there are some children who are taking some subjects in a mainstream section, but for us, for some subjects they are coming to us in the SEN department, and we give them adapted question paper. We do not give them the same mainstream paper. So that is the time, these are the children with whom, you know, we need to accommodate, we need to provide some accommodation, so that suppose if he is taking Hindi in the mainstream class, but he can take the adapted paper with us.
Right.
So that is again a kind of accommodation what we do.
So we'll discuss accommodation after this short break. It's time for a short break. See you after a while.
The chief handicap of the blindness is not blindness, but the attitude of seeing people towards them. आइए जानने और समझने की कोशिश करते हैं कि बधिरांधता यानी डेफ ब्लाइंडनेस क्या है। बधिरांधता एक स्थिति है जिसमें दृष्टिहीनता एवं सुनने की शक्ति में कमी आती है तथा जिससे विचारों के आदान प्रदान और रोजमर्रा की आवश्यकताओं की पूर्ति में समस्या उत्पन्न होती है। बलराम एक 9 साल का बधिरांध बच्चा है। वो एक प्री मैच्योर बच्चा है जिसका शारीरिक विकास उसकी आयु के अनुरूप नहीं हुआ था। वो एक निम्न वर्गीय श्रेणी से संबंध रखता है तथा 5 साल से लगातार नेशनल एसोसिएशन फॉर ब्लाइंड दिल्ली के प्रशिक्षण कार्यक्रम से संलग्न है। इन 5 सालों के अंतर्गत उसे रोजमर्रा के कामों में, हलन चलन में, उसकी शैक्षणिक जरूरतों के अनुसार संप्रेषण द्वारा प्रशिक्षण दिया गया है जिससे वो इन सब क्रियाओं में स्वावलंबी बन सके। बलराम बिना किसी सहायता के चाकू से फलों को काट सकता है। उनके छिलकों को कूड़ेदान में डाल सकता है। अपने बर्तनों को खुद साफ कर सकता है। उन्हें सही जगह पर रख सकता है। सही बर्तनों का चयन करके खुद खाना खाता है। एवं पानी की बोतल निकालकर पानी भी पीता है। इन सभी क्रियाओं में वो टेक्चुअल साइन लैंग्वेज से निर्देशों को ग्रहण करता है और अपने भावों को व्यक्त करता है। टेलर फ्रेम और ब्रेलर द्वारा गणित, पठन लेखन में भी प्रशिक्षण प्राप्त कर रहा है। सभी बच्चों की तरह उसका भी एक मनपसंद खेल है। उसे सेल फोन को अपने कानों पर लगाकर उसका कंपन महसूस करना अच्छा लगता है। कहा जाता है, वॉकिंग विद अ फ्रेंड इन डार्क is better than walking alone in light. कहने का तात्पर्य है कि वो लॉन्ग केन ट्रेवल, टैक्टाइल पाथ, ट्रेलिंग और लैंडमार्क्स द्वारा हलन चलन में भी सक्षम है और व्यायाम संबंधी क्रियाएं जैसे ट्रेडमिल, स्टैटिक साइकिल का स्वचालन भी कर सकता है। कहा गया है, द बेस्ट एंड मोस्ट ब्यूटीफुल थिंग्स इन द वर्ल्ड कैन नॉट बी सीन और इवन टच्ड, दे मस्ट बी फेल्ट विद द हार्ट।
वेलकम बैक। ब्रेक पे जाने से पहले we have discussed about adaptation. To talk about adaptation, it specifically means the modification. As we can do in the teaching methodology or the strategy, we can have an adaptation or the modification in the volume and the complexity of the curriculum. We can adapt the question papers by simplifying the language or by making it more objective or the multiple choice. Next, we talked about the accommodation. And we are discussing about the main difference between the accommodation and the adaptation. Over to you, ma'am.
Yeah, and like an accommodation for these students might be to write a paper without worrying about spellings also. So like you were saying, there's a difference, what difference is there, you know, in adaptation and accommodation. So here when you read this, you can, I think, understand now. It's more of compensating for their weaknesses basically. If they have some weaknesses, on some of the weaknesses we can work through intervention, but for some of the weaknesses we really need to compensate.
Right.
So that in this way we can really give them that compensation. Okay, you are we know that you are not able to write the right spellings, correct spellings. So we can change the change in the sense we can really expect this change. You can write the right spellings what you know basically, or they can also type their question answers on the computer where they can go to a spell check and check it also. So but it can only be done when you have a very small group, when a teacher, a special educator is only with 4 or 5 children, not more than that, because sometimes it's difficult to manage 10-15 children together.
Right. And like if we talk about the ADHD child, if he wants to go in between, like while doing his work, if he wants to go in between and take a round of the school, then he can be allowed for that.
Yeah,
so that's a kind of a compensation.
We have like when we talk about inclusion again, we only look at children with mild problems, and sometimes we allow them, okay, you can go to a washroom or you can go and wash your hands.
Right.
So that way we allow them. Yeah.
Okay. Then the next point is,
yeah, it can also be writing of an adapted paper, as I discussed, whereas the accommodation can be given in form of a scribe who can be provided to write a paper. So like we all know that in boards also it's allowed now. Children are getting their scribes, and he or she should be 1 year junior to them, and they can get a scribe if they have any problem. Suppose if they are slow writers, if there is a problem with the writing process, then they can always get it. Or if a child is with dysgraphia, like again the writing problem, then also they can get a scribe. A scribe can write for them, they can dictate their answers to that scribe.
It's more easy, like they can learn and the scribe can
because some of them, they really get that kind of muscle fatigue, they get tired by writing for long, you know. Accommodations like intervention should be utilized in ways that avoid embarrassment or stigmatization of the students. Try to ensure that all students in the class understand the purpose of accommodation. Like if you remember, initially I was talking about the sensitization.
Right.
So when we sensitize the children, we sensitize the whole class, and we involve the counselors, because sometimes as special educators we know that we are sensitizing, we know that we are talking to them, but at this point, you know, sometimes it becomes crucial to involve counselors also, because somehow they know how to deal with different questions and different queries, and they are the one who are professionals, you know, who are professionals from this field. They can understand their emotions and they can understand their response also, you know, the way they respond back. So that is why again it's a teamwork. we don't like not only the special educators but the whole team get involved while talking to children, while sensitizing them about other children's needs, because sometimes yes we face this also. Why ma'am, why you are being partial, why are you taking his side unnecessarily, he is all right. They ask these questions when a child does not have any physical problem. But yes, we do sensitize them for each and every need of the children, of other children, so that there should be no this thing, no stigmatization also, and there should be no nothing, there should be nothing like, okay ma'am, don't be partial, or you're just taking his side, or you're giving them more numbers, or you're being more liberal,
Right.
so that way.
So the basic difference we talked about between the adaptation and accommodation. Adaptation refers to modification, which we can do in the volume and the complexity of the curriculum, which we can do in the teaching strategies, or which we can do by adapting the question papers. And if we specifically talk about the accommodation, then it refers to the compensation. To make it more clear, we can have an example over here. If we talk about adaptation and the question paper, we can take the example of a question paper. We are adapting the question paper by making it the objective type or the multiple choice question paper, or we are simplifying the language. But if we talk about the accommodation, then in that case we are either giving them the extra minutes or we are giving them the scribe. So this is the basic difference between the adaptation and accommodation. Adaptation refers to modification and accommodation basically refers to the compensation. So moving on to the next slide, what we are going to discuss next.
But here there are
Yeah.
2 more points what I would like to discuss.
We can
Accommodations like intervention, this we have done. Make it clear that teasing or disrespecting students who are receiving an accommodation is unacceptable classroom behavior. So here when we are talking to other mainstream children, when we are talking to other children of the class, we should make sure, we should really be this thing, that they should not tease that child, they should not abuse, or they should not use bad words for them, or they should not use words which can lower down their self-esteem. Because when we are talking about mainstream inclusion, though we always say, oh my god, inclusion should be done, integration should be done, but there are genuine problems which we face in day-to-day life, and those problems are like sometimes children abuse each other, sometimes children really say, oh he's a child from learning center, or he's a child with special needs, or he's a child who have some problem, so this can lower down the self-esteem of a child who have some special needs. So that way I think talking to children is a must on day-to-day basis.
And for that, as you say, it's a teamwork, it's a team approach, which can. So moving on to the next slide. So we discussed about the adaptation and the accommodation. Adaptation, as we talked about, is more about the modification, and if we talk about the accommodation, then we can say it is more about the compensation. Adaptation basically in the terms of the volume and the complexity of the curriculum, teaching strategies, and also about the question papers. Now moving on to the next slides, we are going to
like
discuss
accommodation in school, what we do and we practice it day to day, in day to day life, is allowing a child to sit in the second row away from the busy section of the class. So when children who have mild problems, who have these problems, they should be allowed to sit, and sometimes what happens that children, when we rearrange the seats, there is really like that kind of fight. No ma'am, why do you make him sit always in the first row? Why does he sit there? Why can't I sit there, So that way we face these problems, but again with the team approach, we can solve these problems, and we, especially when children have problems, we prefer that they should sit in front. They should sit in a front row or in a second row, so that they are in the, so that teacher can really focus on them, so that teachers can really pay attention to them. Because sometimes what happens, a child who is slow gets ignored by the teacher.
So now we are basically clear. Accommodation means accommodating them, like change, as you say, placing them into the second row, or like according to the question paper. So basically we need to accommodate these children into the school set. So now I think we are more clear regarding the difference between adaptation and accommodation. Then moving on to the next point.
Using collaboration with peers or an adult in school to support him. Again, like I'm talking about, I'm talking about buddy system. Like we can really involve peers, we can really involve children who are sensitive, who can be their friends, so that sometimes what we have noticed that children who are slow, they do not copy down their classwork completely. and in a school in a limited time period, you know, it becomes very difficult for a special educator also to make him complete the classwork
Right.
during that limited period. So here we take the help of those children or some children's parents also who can support them. These children can call them up, they can take the notes from them. So this way, you know, they can really work with each other, they can really share their classwork, homework, home assignments, project work, they can guide each other. So peer or a buddy system really works.
Then the next point.
To enhance attention and learning, clear instructions and goal need to be set. Basically, again here, to enhance learning in that child, we really need to be very clear with our instructions, because again sometimes what we have felt with the mainstream teachers, that they come to the class. I am not saying that special educators don't do, we also do it sometimes. Sometimes we go to a class and we become very, you know, we know, because we are very clear with our subject. We just go to a class, we give a lecture away, and then we come out. We don't even think about our pace. We have seen many children, many teachers who are very intelligent or very good teachers also. They explain it beautifully, but sometimes their pace is so fast that children who are slow, or a little bit slow, you know, or who are having some mild problems, it becomes very difficult for them to understand. So these children also need some extra remediation classes along with the mainstream classes. So then we try to adjust, or we try to talk to teachers. We are very open with the feedback system, weekly feedback, monthly feedback, or just a shadow teacher who is a special educator in that class can always share the feedback with that teacher.
But ma'am, like you talked about the buddy system. Is it
Yeah.
really practical to be
Yes.
followed in the class?
Sometimes we have seen it is very useful, but yes, as you face problems everywhere, so sometimes we have seen that some of the parents were very I will not say that they were friendly. Some of the parents were not friendly. They were getting panic. But why my child? Why my child will be? You know, why is he his buddy? He really disturbs us a lot. He really calls us. He really gives us so many calls. But and they also sometimes they also feel, no, why should my child talk to this child who is
Exactly.
a child with special needs? So that kind of stigma, you know, it is there. And sometimes parents, we have seen very educated parents also are not socially aware of these this disability sector or this,
Right.
these causes. So here sometimes we need to sensitize parents also. We face problem with the buddy system, but most of the time we have seen it is useful also.
So you're following this in your school?
Yeah, we follow it in our school.
Okay.
When we are working in inclusion, we really follow it like.
Okay. Then the next point.
Then multisensorial way of teaching should be implemented so that children with different needs can be accommodated. As I discussed this point earlier also,
Right.
if a teacher is creative, if a teacher knows her children, if a teacher knows needs of different children, then she can really be creative and can really involve the ways of teaching which are more useful which are more useful in a sense, like which can accommodate or which can benefit each and every child with different special needs, and not only the children who are very intelligent or who are super intelligent.
Right. So multi-sensorial way of teaching, it should also be implemented. Then the next point.
Increased use of worksheets. Why I am talking about worksheets here? Because sometimes children, children learn a topic in class. Sometimes teachers cover a topic in class, but it also becomes, sometimes I feel, you know, I am feeling like not me only, but other teachers also feel it this way, that a topic which is a difficult topic, which is a complex topic, it is very important for that per child. It is very important for other children also to reinforce the same topic. So if a teacher can provide more worksheets, then that topic can be reinforced more at home, and that way it would benefit that child's learning.
Ma'am, like you told about the multisensorial way of teaching.
Yeah.
If we specifically talk about the mild mental retardation, then how can this teaching can be implemented, the multisensorial way?
You know, when you are teaching a child with mild retardation, it is useful, because you are not only making that child learning a concept only through one way, but you are learning that you're teaching that child to learn the concept in many different ways. He's using his hands. He's using his hands, he's using his vision, he's using his auditory channel. So he's using he is using his all the channels to learn the same concept. He is using all his channels to learn the same concept, and that way I think he'll learn it in a better way.
Right.
Suppose if I see something and I am not able to remember it tomorrow, but suppose if I do something along with seeing it, then I will remember it better. So, in the same way, it's not only beneficial for children with mild problems otherwise like dyslexia or ADD, but it is beneficial for children with mild retardation also.
So it can be used for like
Yeah,
all the
because
children.
you have to see what strength he has. Suppose child is a good audio learner, but he is not a
Right.
good visual learner. You have to teach him through his auditory learning, but you have to strengthen up the visual senses also. You know,
Right.
visual organs also, perception also. Sorry.
Visual cues more
Yeah.
to be given in that
Then
case.
shorter written assignments, like I told you earlier also. Suppose a child is able to give only main points of the answer, but he is not able to elaborate the answer. Okay, you just ask him to write the main points, and you can also elaborate with him. You can sit with him, you can make him elaborate the points. You can, and suppose sometimes what happens at that, these children speak very well, they know their answers verbally, but when it comes
Right.
to writing, they write half of the answer and they do not write, you know, they leave half of the answer.
Right.
So there, this is really beneficial, that this is really like a compensation when you expect a shorter written assignment from them, or you sit with them and you ask them to speak and you can write it for them.
So we discussed about
Yeah.
the multisensorial way of teaching, increased use of worksheets, and the shorter written assignments. Then the next point is
Skipping writing the question and question answers. You know what happens, sometimes teachers demand in a question paper you write question number 4, then you write answer 4, and then you write the answer. But in this way, it's sometimes because children who are really who really get tired fast, there are some children who are slow writers who get muscle fatigues fast, then it becomes very difficult for them to write that long answers also. But at the same time, if you are expecting him to write questions also, you are giving him one more difficult job to do. So his most of the time, his brain, you know, his brain, in the sense I'll say that he is focusing on writing questions, and by the time he comes back to the answers, he might forget it also.
right.
So to reduce the pressure, we can ask him to write the answers, those answers only with the numbering, you know, with the correct numbering.
As we discussed about changing or adapting the volume and the complexity of the curriculum.
Yeah.
If a mild dyslexic child is there and he or she is in a 10th standard, or we can say that he is doing that from the open school. Now,
Yeah.
then the syllabus is to be edited by the school or by the NOS, the National Open Schooling Center.
Usually what happens when children go for the boards, when we talk about the National Open Schooling itself they have very flexible curriculum. They are taking, you know, the exam time is also it is very flexible. You can take one paper today and you can take another paper after 3 months also. So that kind of flexibility they have given, and their curriculum is CBSE based also. And I think they have made it more simple. I am not like more into the curriculum of the class 10 or 11th or 12th, but as far as I know that it is a simple curriculum, but yes, volume is there. Children who can handle that much of volume, only then we send them, you know. We do not send all the children for a National Open Schooling, because some of the children are not able to handle that much of volume also.
Right.
But some of the children are able to handle the volume, then we send them. And but because of the flexibility of giving exams at different timings, one exam today, one exam after 2 months, they have got long period to prepare for that particular exam. So that kind of flexibility really helps them, and then they get a scribe also. Then
Right.
the curriculum is also simpler. It is simpler than the any other board curriculum.
Okay. So we discussed about the adaptation
And
the
then subject
accommodation.
flexibility is also there in National Open Schooling.
Yeah,
So
you
when
can
children
choose
get
subjects,
subject
yeah.
flexibility, sometimes they are very good. Some of them are very good with subjective learning. They are good with social sciences, not with sciences and maths. Then they can really be exempted out of the you know, from those two subjects, and they can take subjects of their own choices like home science, computer application, and social sciences, and Hindi or English, 2 languages. So they when they get subjects according to their choice, according to their abilities, they are able to give it also.
And specifically, if we talk about dyslexic children, then the language, the language subject, only one language subject should be there. So in that case, the exemption, it will be like beneficial for them.
Yes, it is
either Hindi
beneficial.
or the
Even
English.
in boards also nowadays they are getting exemption. ICC has started. If you cannot take maths and sciences, you can take commercial maths and home science instead of maths and sciences. So and CBSE boards also have some exemptions, some subject groupings. So I think it is beneficial for them.
Okay. So we discussed about the adaptation and accommodation. Basically, yeah, would you
Yeah.
like to add on something?
No,
Okay.
I was just thinking about the boards. If we can have more accommodation in our board system, you know, which is I think coming. They're really discussing about it. They're really talking about it. It's into a process.
Right.
It's going on. So let's see what they come up with.
And if we specifically talk about the scribe, like they are giving the training have been given to scribes, like for the visually impaired. The certain criteria has been
Yes.
set. They should not be like intellectually higher than the child who is giving the exam. So I think the scribe, they should also be given training while handling a dyslexic child, or while with a dyslexic child or ADHD child. They should also be given training, or the certain criteria should also be set. Like
They have their criteria,
okay,
but again, a parent has to choose a scribe. You know.
okay.
So parent has to choose it on their own, and then they can send that child with their own child for the board exams.
Okay, then moving on to the next slide, what we are going to discuss next. So we discussed about the adaptation and the accommodation. Basically, if we talk about the accommodation, it's more related to the compensation. We discussed about the scribe, we discussed about extra minutes to be given into the exam, we discussed about the buddy system, the shadowing system, mentoring, and placing the child into the second row, like away from the busy section of the class. Then we discussed about giving the simple and the clear instructions to the child. Then we talked about the multi-sensorial way of the teaching. It should be implemented. Then we talked about the increased use of worksheets, the shorter written assignments, and the skipping the questions into the exam. So these all can be counted under the accommodation, which specifically accounts more to the compensation. Then moving on to the next slide, what we are going to discuss.
Like we were talking about volume modification, I would like to add on more in volume modification. Volume modification will be different for differently able children. For children with mild learning difficulties, one can include the less number of topics. For example, you can reduce the complexity of each chapter by taking away the less useful topics or the topics that we do not apply in day-to-day life. As we mentioned earlier also, like when we are talking about volume modification, we are talking about we are not only talking about reducing the number of chapters, but we are also talking about reducing the complexity from each and every chapter, so that a child needs to cover the less number of topics. Suppose if I am teaching the circulatory system to a child should know how does blood travel in our body, or what does blood do, or what is blood, you know, and or what is blood made up of, but he doesn't need to know all the walls of the heart, or what is the role of each wall, or what is the role of each chamber, how many chambers are there, but he should know like what is pulse rate. These are the very common questions. These are the questions of very general questions which every child should know if he has that kind of intelligence. So if a child can do this much, then he should be then we should reduce the complexity of the curriculum, so that he is able to learn that much. Include only those topics that are more applicable, like as I was talking about, or decreasing the workload on students. For example, allowing shorter written assignments, assigning fewer maths problem for homework, decreasing the amount of reading. Because if a child gets tired after reading a page, and you are giving him 4 pages to read and then doing answer and question answers, it has no point, you know, for that child, because by the time he'll come to the 4th page, he will be tired, I think, on the 3rd page only, or on the 2nd page only, and then how would he understand the whole comprehension which is hidden in 4 pages? How will he cover the question answers? How will he answer the questions? So please, this is my request, that please look at children's abilities, then depending on their abilities, design your curriculum accordingly.
But like if we specifically talk about maths, then
Yeah.
we can't like edit the topic, so we can't.
No, we have done it. I have not got that presentation at present, but we have done it. We have in fact I only designed that curriculum. It is the functional maths curriculum. In that curriculum, I took the books right from the nursery level up to class 6s, basically 7 beginning or 6th end I have taken, and in that way we have adapted the whole curriculum. We have only taken the contents which are more functional and we are only teaching those topics in a way, you know, so that it is functionally more applicable for them. They go for shopping skills, they go for mock shop trainings, they go for, you know, so where they become shopkeepers and the buyers. then they understand what the profit is, what the loss is. We have included topics like percentage, profit, banking, and how to fill a check, what do you understand by a check, all that we have included. And we would like to discuss about it later, but because it itself is a big topic, where
Right.
we need to cover a lot.
Okay, so you think like complexity can be decreased or like the topics can be lessened? So we basically talked about the volume modification. In this earlier we talked about in the adaptation by decreasing the topic, by lessening the topic and decreasing the complexity. So in volume modification we specifically talk about lessening the number of the topics, and not we have to include only those topics which are included in our day-to-day life. For example, ma'am gave us an example of a circulatory system. It is not necessary for a child to have the knowledge about the function of the different walls of the heart or the function of the different chambers, but it's more necessary to know about the blood, what is blood and how it is circulated into the body. It is more necessary to know about the topics which are used in the day-to-day life, which are more applicable, where the application is there of the topics, and decreasing the workload is very important. So in this way we can have the volume modification, or decreasing the complexity is very necessary in various subjects, be it in science or be it in maths, making it more functional, making it more applicable. Like if we specifically talk about maths, then we can have the concept of profit and loss, we can have the concept of the percentage, or we can have the concept of how to fill a check or what is a check. So these, what is the volume, like basically
we can also involve measurement. It's a good topic.
Yeah.
Then addition, subtraction, multiplication also. Then when we talk about decimals, like I'll again give you an example here. With decimals we don't go much more into the place values of decimal numbers, but we only take the decimal notations in money. What do you understand, like what is the meaning of that point here, how do you separate the rupees from paisa? So that way, there we use the decimal point. Why do we use the decimal point? We use the decimal point to separate the rupee from the paisa.
Right.
And there they understand, okay, these many rupees I have, this much paisa I have. Suppose if I need to add 20 rupees 50 paisa with 15 rupees 20 paisa, how would I do that? Suppose if I buy one Pepsi bottle for rupees 10 to add 10 rupees and 20 paisa, and I need to buy now 10 bottles, how would I multiply that?
Right.
So that is what is application of decimal notations in money, and child can use that kind of application either by using the calculator or by using his mind, by using his brain. So he can do calculations in one of these ways.
So like as you talked about the calculators, are they allowed into the boards like for these children?
Calculators are not calculators till now I don't know exactly, but yes, if there is if a child has problem with dyscalculia, if a child has dyscalculia, then I think they are allowed, but not for each and every child. Again it depends on the criteria.
And what about English? Like how can we go for that? We have verbs, we have pronouns, we have adjectives, we have everything in English. So how can we decrease the complexity in that particular subject?
When if a child can do verbs, if a child can understand verbs, pronouns, adjectives, then we do those adjectives, verbs and pronouns in a functional way. Suppose if I give a paragraph to a child which says that a girl is going to a park and that girl was very fair or wearing a pink color frock. So there you can ask the child to find out some adjectives, some nouns, some verbs, but separately, teaching them separately is of no use. Teaching them separately is of no use, because how will he understand that what are verbs, what are pronouns, what are adjectives, unless until he is using them.
Right.
So application of each and every concept, whether it's English or it's science or it's maths or it's Hindi, it is very important for them.
Right. So as we discussed, the application, it's very important, and we have to decrease the complexity, or we can lessen the topics on the basis of the application point of view. We should understand, or we should make the child understand what are these concepts which he or she can use on his daily basis, in his daily life, which should have more applicability, whether we talk about science or whether we talk about English or whether we talk about maths. As we can include in maths the volume, we can include measurement, profit and loss, percentage, means those topics which holds weightage in our day-to-day life, which are more important for the application in our day-to-day life. So we can decrease the complexity in this order, and we discussed about adaptation, accommodation and the volume modification. Rest of the discussion we will carry after a short break. See you after a while.
ऑटिज्म एक व्यापक विकासात्मक विकलांगता है जिसके लक्षण जीवन के प्रथम 3 वर्ष में ही दिखाई पड़ते हैं, जैसे असंगत खेल, असमान स्थूल एवं सूक्ष्म गामक क्रियाएं, शाब्दिक संकेतों पर अभिव्यक्ति न देना।
Where is the cup? देखो, open your eyes, open करो, open करके, open.
नियमित कार्यक्रम परिवर्तन का विरोध करना एवं अवलोकनीय शारीरिक उच्च स्तरीय या निम्न स्तरीय क्रियाकलाप। UNCRPD 2007 सेक्शन 1 ऑफ आर्टिकल 4 निशक्तता के क्षेत्र में कार्यरत प्रोफेशनल के प्रशिक्षण पर महत्व देता है। ऑटिज्म के क्षेत्र में सरकारी एवं गैर सरकारी संस्थाएं कार्यरत हैं, जो भारतीय पुनर्वास परिषद द्वारा पंजीकृत हैं। सोसाइटी फॉर एडवांस स्टडी इन रिहैबिलिटेशन एक ऐसी ही गैर सरकारी संस्था है। कनिष्क 13 साल का एक ऑटिस्टिक बच्चा है जो इसी संस्था से प्रशिक्षण प्राप्त कर रहा है। असंगत क्रियाएं, कार्यकलापों में निरस्ता, असमान स्थूल एवं सूक्ष्म गामक क्रियाएं जैसे बॉडी रॉकिंग और फिंगर रिगलिंग उसमें देखी जा सकती है। उसे मैचिंग और पेस्टिंग, पॉइंटिंग जैसी क्रियाएं सिखाई जाती हैं।
Very good. Glass. Where is the glass? Glass. Very. कप को टच करो जल्दी से। कप को। Where is the cup? Very good. कप में क्या करता है कनिष्क? टी पीता है। चलो ग्लास। Where is the glass? Very good. चलो बाउल की तरह, बाउल जल्दी से टच करो बाउल को। Very good. बाउल में क्या करता है कनिष्क?
तथा साथ ही साथ रोजमर्रा की आवश्यकताएं जैसे खाना, पीना, कपड़े पहनना, और व्यायाम संबंधी प्रशिक्षण दिया जाता है। ऑटिस्टिक बच्चों को भिन्न भिन्न प्रकार की कार्यविधियां उनके स्तर के अनुसार सिखाई जाती हैं, जैसे कुछ बच्चों के लिए कलरिंग विद इन वन एरिया, मैचिंग एंड आइडेंटिफिकेशन, फाइन मोटर स्किल्स, आई हैंड कोऑर्डिनेशन, कंसेप्ट ऑफ वेजिटेबल्स, फ्रूट्स, बॉडी पार्ट्स, कलर्स पर जोर दिया जाता है तथा कुछ को प्रश्न पढ़ के उत्तर देने में और रोजमर्रा की आवश्यकताओं को पूरा करने में सक्षम बनाया जाता है। इसके अलावा राइम्स, डांसिंग, सिंगिंग द्वारा लेजर एंड रिक्रिएशनल एक्टिविटीज में भाग लेने के लिए प्रोत्साहित किया जाता है। इन सभी कार्यकलापों एवं प्रशिक्षण का एकमात्र उद्देश्य उन्हें स्वनिर्भर बनाना है, ताकि ये डगमगाते पांव सक्षम बन जीवन के एक एक पायदान पर दृढ़ता से आगे बढ़ें और अपनी मंजिल को पा लें। एक तारा टिमटिमाता, उसने आकाश को छू लिया। एक लौ जली कहीं, उसने अंधकार को मिटा दिया।
वेलकम बैक। ब्रेक पे जाने से पहले वी हैव डिस्कस्ड अबाउट वॉल्यूम मॉडिफिकेशन. इट बेसिकली रेफर्स टू हाउ वी कैन lessen the number of the topics and decrease the complexity of the curriculum. We talked about how to lessen the topics. Basically only those topics can be selected which are more applicable in our day-to-day life, which have more usefulness in our day-to-day life. Those topics can be selected and we have to decrease the workload of the students. it's not necessary, or it's not mandatory that only one particular subject can be have a decreased complexity. We can have this applicability on the variety of subjects, either in science, either in math, or either in English. Basically, we have to follow one thumb rule, or the teachers have to follow the one thumb rule, that the topics or the complexity should be decreased according to the application process. Means how these topics are applicable in our day-to-day life and what usefulness they hold in our day-to-day life. For example, in maths we talked about the volume, the measurement, profit and loss, then how to fill a check, what is a check basically. So these things, according to these, the application thing we can take into the consideration. Then moving on further, what we are going to discuss.
Yeah, this is about complexity adjustment, simplifying the difficulty levels, focusing on one concept, working directly with him to kickstart, reading out questions, explaining keywords, clarifying understanding in tests, underlining keywords and highlighting the main points, allowing use of the computer. Basically what we mean to say here, like when you are simplifying the concept, you really have to focus on one concept, and by focusing on one concept, your instructions need to be very clear, what you are expecting that child to do based on that concept. And then you are reading out questions. Sometimes we really need to read out questions when they are giving exams, because sometimes what we have felt, like as I said earlier, when we are dealing with children with special needs, it's not only academic problems, but it is also emotional problems.
Right.
Like sometimes they have exam phobia, they have exam anxiety also, and to reduce that anxiety, we need to talk to them sometimes before exams. We need to read out the whole question paper with them by taking them out of the classroom, by taking those 3-4 children out, by reading the whole question paper to them, by making them understanding the questions also sometimes. And when we are teaching the topic, we really need to work on their study skills, how to read the topic, how to highlight the main points, how to take out the keywords, what is the importance of these keywords. So by focusing on each and every small part of the curriculum, small part of the chapters, you can really make these children understand it better.
So complexity, in what terms we are talking about in this slide?
Here when we are talking about complexity adjustment, we are saying that if a topic is a long topic, suppose there are 5 subtopics in that particular chapter, how will you teach each topic separately? By reducing the complexity in the sense, how will you simplify the concept for him? Suppose I'll give you again one example here. Chapter is there is a big chapter in geography, and in this whole chapter they are talking about hydrosphere, they are talking about biosphere, they are talking about lithosphere. But for this child who is already facing the problem, it's very difficult for him to understand all these terms together in a day time, or maybe in 2 days time, or maybe in 3 days time. So for this particular child who can understand hydrosphere, who can understand biosphere, but at a slower pace, but in a simpler way. So suppose today I am focusing only on hydrosphere. I am making him understand the topic by making him understand the definition of the hydrosphere, or by making a model based on hydrosphere, or by showing him a presentation based on hydrosphere. And then suppose if I am giving him 3 questions based on the hydrosphere, can I explain the questions to him? Can I make him understand the questions before I expect the answers from him? Or can I give him the project guidelines if I am giving him a project to do? So this is just to break the topic or break your teaching methodology also. It can be a combination of teaching methodology, of simplifying the concepts also.
And what are these keywords?
Keywords are like the chapter is Africa. Suppose children are talking about Africa, but in Africa they are talking about what? Are they talking about culture? But what is culture? Culture is a keyword. Then or are they talking about their atmosphere? Are they talking about the environment? Or they are talking about their weather? Weather is a keyword, but what is weather? What do they understand by this term weather? Or suppose if you are talking about their agriculture. So there are many keywords which will come in that paragraph, or which will come in that concept. So you have to make them understand the keywords separately. Before you start the chapter, you can take out 4-5 keywords, or when you are covering a topic, you can take 4-5 keywords. So you can make them understand the meaning of those keywords which are important, which can work as clues also, as a cue also. Okay, if I know this much, then I can add on more.
And like allowing the use of computer, what do you mean by that?
Yes, as I mentioned earlier also, sometimes children are slow writers. They get tired by writing 4 questions in a day. So we
Okay.
allow them a computer, they can make their projects on computer, they can type out their answers on the computer, and when we are talking, when we are asking them to type, not typing not only becomes easier for them, but typing also makes them do some exercises with their fingers, which ultimately increases the muscle strength in fingers also.
And like if in terms of a chapter like you told about Africa, so we
Yeah.
can like learning by doing, as in the sense they can see the pictures or they can read about that particular Africa, the things in that. So it's
Yeah, you
it's
can
more
teach
easier.
Africa through a mind map also. Africa is the main topic. What we are going to talk about? We are going to talk about Africa. So Africa can be a main point.
Right.
Then you can take that spider web kind of thing. Okay, from
Right.
Africa, arrow. What else we are going to talk about Africa is the culture. So in culture, what else we are going to talk about?
Okay.
Culture of that particular place in Africa.
Okay.
So what we are going to talk about in agriculture, commercial use and the home use, that the industrial use and the inside use, what they use in Africa itself, what they can export, how do they earn money from the agriculture. So about agriculture, about culture, about visiting places in
Yeah.
Africa. So in this way you can talk about different topics, but when you are covering these topics, you can give a mind map to
Okay.
them.
So then moving on to the next slide. Intervention.
Like we said, intervention, we mentioned this word also. Interventions are intended to strengthen a weak skill. For students who have trouble spellings, an intervention aimed at improving this academic skill might be to ask the students to pick out the correct spelled words from a set of words. Intervention is not only the remediation of various subjects, but it is also provided to work on various aspects of life to develop the child fully. So like what you mentioned earlier also, early intervention, children who are in inclusive school, who are getting the benefit of getting early intervention. So when we talk about early intervention, we are not only talking about academic skills, intervening the academic skills, but we are also talking about intervening the social skills, intervening the emotional behaviors, intervening the overall development of the child. How can you develop the child fully? You are not only looking at the academic needs, but you are also looking at the social needs, emotional needs and other behavioral needs also.
So intervention not just
And medical needs, it can include medical needs also.
right.
So looking at the child as a whole soul, or looking or working holistically with the child can develop that child fully.
Yeah, holistically is more apt to say here,
Yeah.
because we are not just focusing on the academic skills, but on the social skills and the emotional skills.
But when a child comes to school, academic skills also become very important.
Exactly.
Because
The main
why is he
focus-
coming to school? Towards the end of the day, he is coming to school for learning. But what he is going to learn? He is going to learn academic only. So academic takes that kind of importance. But along with academic, if he is getting fits, if you are not getting the medical intervention, if you are not doing the medical intervention, if you are not showing him to a doctor, so how will he learn? That will degrade him.
And also these skills, like we talked about social skills and the emotional behavior, these also have an effect on the academic skills. Unless the social skills are not developed, how can a
Yes.
child be fully integrated with
Yeah,
his or her
because he doesn't
academics?
know how to play with friends, he doesn't know how to sit in a classroom situation, he doesn't know how to sit with other 4 children. If he does not know how to sit with other 4 children or how to learn, how will he sit in a classroom? So
Right.
for that also becomes very important prior to the academic needs.
Yeah. Then moving on to the next slide.
Adaptation in seating arrangement of the classroom. We do this also. A classroom structure also needs to be modified for adjusting children with different needs. Children with special needs, like with hearing impairment or attention problem, can be seated in front in the middle row. Classroom can be less noisy also. And then if you talk about other adaptation in seating arrangement, we really look at the teacher and the student interaction. How can a teacher interact with that student better, or how can a student, how can this student who have some special needs, how can he sit with the student who is brighter than him, but who is at the same time is more sensitized also, who is sensitized, who knows that okay, this child needs this. So can I help her with her classwork? Can I help her with this maths problem? So we also look at that also, social aspect of it also.
Plus the charts, like we can have the bigger charts into the classroom.
Yes.
The timetable, it should be like into the bigger bold letters.
Yeah.
Constant reminder for the child.
That's what I'm saying. When we have small classrooms, when we are talking about elementary, here I'm talking about the middle school, more about the middle school. But when you like as you are talking, when we are talking about the elementary school, inclusion in elementary, we have many charts with the multi-sensorial way, where these children can feel the alphabets on those jute ropes. They can feel the alphabets in that sand, what do you call it, sand stencils, and they have wooden stencils also, and then they have many very colorful charts, many charts on their walls also, and then they have holding bars also. If a child is a physically handicapped child or a child with hemiplegia, he needs support to walk or he needs support to stand also, we have holding bars also, and we can have the same thing in toilets also. So depending on again how many, what type of children you have, you can adapt the infrastructure.
Plus we can have a separate corner into the classroom.
Yes.
Like if these children find
Yes,
it
we
necessary
do have,
to have.
we can have that also.
Okay. Then
And then when you talk about infrastructure, infrastructure is not only about the seating arrangement, but it is also about your teaching staff, how much awareness they have, how much aware they are, how can you train them, how can you have small workshops in your school to train your new staff, how can a new, you know, when a new staff is giving an interview, the principal, this is what I feel, it should come from the higher authorities. The principal and the management should make it very clear that if you are going to work in inclusive school, you have to be very open, because some teachers we have felt, oh my god, this child is from Sen, so he will not know this, he will not do this, he cannot understand this. They make that, they, you know, stigmatize that, or they make that, like they have those notions and like they have those in their minds, he cannot do it, he would not be able to do this. But teachers should be very open, because sometimes children with special needs do better than many other mainstream children also. And this is, we are talking from our experience only. We have seen many children who had special needs, but who have appeared for boards and who have done very well in their lives and who are doing it also.
Right.
So teachers should not make it in their mind that, oof, child with special needs, child from the SEN department, child from the learning center, he would not be able to do it, or he would not be able to learn this or that.
Right. Then moving on to the next slide.
That's
okay. So we discussed about the complexity, after volume modification we discussed about the complexity adjustment. We basically discussed in this simplifying the difficulty level, focusing on one concept, working directly with the child as on one-on-one teaching. Then we discussed about underlining the keywords or explaining the keywords to the child. We discussed about allowing the use of the computer. So this we discussed in the complexity adjustments. Then we discussed about the intervention, because it's a very important thing. Like if a child is going to an inclusive setup and initially the parents are not aware of the problem that the child is dyslexic. So being in an inclusive setup, the teachers are more aware about this problem. So early intervention plays a major part, or we can say it's a good advantage. It's an advantage into the inclusive setup. And not just intervention is necessary for the academic skills, but also for the social skills, for developing the emotional behavior. These things are also necessary apart from the academic skills, but the focus should be more onto the academic skills. Then we discussed about the adaptation, the seating arrangement. Like we can place the child into the front row or into the middle row. We can have the separate corners into the classroom. We can have bars into the classroom for the like hemiplegics, so that they can hold on to them and they can move about. And the classroom should be less noisy. And if we specifically talk about the elementary school, elementary setup, then we can have the charts, or we can have the pictures onto the walls of the classroom, more into the bold letters, and we can have the sand stencils or the wooden stencils, so, and the jute letters, the letters should be embraced with the jute, so that the child can feel onto them. So these kind of arrangements we can do either into the elementary setup or to the middle school or into the infrastructure of the school. Then what I'm going to discuss next,
we're just going to discuss about those students who are not able to be integrated in the mainstream classes. But we have children also like who are able to do some part of academic. We will not say that they are not able to do anything. They are able to do some portion of the academic also. But again here, when we are going to talk about adaptation, how do we adapt the curriculum for those children who are functional? We say functional children है, we say that oh वो तो बहुत functional है और वो नहीं कर पाएगा academic, but yes, but वो functional है तब भी तो कुछ तो कर पाएगा ही ना, तब भी तो he would be able to learn something, if not everything, you know. So depending on the needs of children who can do the curriculum, who can follow the curriculum but in a much more functional way, so we need to adapt the curriculum functionally. We say that functional adaptation of the curriculum. So how do we adapt the curriculum functionally, or when do we say that this curriculum is functionally adapted? So let's have a look on that also, you know.
Right.
So here when we are talking about the slide, as you can read also, pre-work program for students who are 12 years plus. Life skills and functional education program. Life skills program. Life skills program includes personal and self-help skills, which includes again ADLs, grooming and hygiene, independent living skills, sexual health, community skills include consumer skills, social skills, leisure time skills. Self-development includes self-awareness, personality integration, emotional well-being, interpersonal relationships, work behavior and vocational skills. Functional academics, maintenance. Functional literacy, reading and writing skills. Here when you are talking about the academic, here also like it's not that we are going from class 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, no, but we have this curriculum also, we have broken the task in such a way that children are able to follow the curriculum step by step. We have divided the curriculum in steps, so a child can go from one step to another. So like we will also see here, this curriculum not only includes functional literacy, but it also includes language and communication skills, numeracy skills, general awareness, SST, science and EVS and computer. Like if you can see here, community life skills education, core area is community skills we are talking about here, sub core area is consumer skills, commuting by walking, commuting by walking, can walk on the road and cross it by, then holding the caregiver's hand, walking at a reasonable speed, following simple instructions like come and stop, then behaving in an appropriate manner, not not shouting or not sitting down in the middle of the road, can follow simple directions by walking, for example, left or right, and then can walk safely in his neighborhood on the pavement, on the road and avoid obstacles, can identify and avoid dangerous places, for example, open manholes or drains, electrical boxes with the danger signs, and take an alternate route, can cross lanes and main roads safely. So suppose when you are looking at this slide, what are we talking about? We are talking about more of commuting. We teach these children not only the curriculum, not only the functional addition, subtraction, rupees, paisa, mock shop training, shopping skills, but along with that we also teach them how to commute from one place to another. But when we talk about commuting, that means we are also talking about crossing the road. How do we walk on the road? Which are the signs which we need to read? Which signs on the road are very important? Suppose the direction is showing that Qutub Minar is on the left hand side, but that child does not know what is left, what is right. How will he reach the Qutub Minar? He can turn right, he can turn, if he is not able to read also Qutub Minar and he is not able to understand the direction, like arrow is moving towards left, that means I have to move towards left. So all that we need to teach these children not along with the academic, along with the functional academic.
सो मैम ये जो हम बात कर रहे हैं कि लाइफ स्किल प्रोग्राम्स के बारे में और फंक्शनल एकेडमिक्स के बारे में, those children who are not able to gain an entry into the mainstream school,
yeah,
so they'll be given these training into the integrated setups or into the special schools?
No, into basically what happens, like when we are talking about inclusion, as you said that it is not possible for a school to include each and every child in a mainstream classroom situation. So some of the schools, like in our school we have special sections also, we have a very well designed curriculum which again like CBSE based, though our school is not CBSE based, it is ICSE based, but for these children who are not able to follow the ICSE curriculum, we have adapted the CBSE curriculum. But along with them we have a separate section called the pre-vocational section.
Okay.
Children who are in the pre-vocational, they have come from the junior school, they were following the functional curriculum in the junior school also. So they have come to us in the middle school and we have taken them in a separate section called the pre-vocational section. In this pre-vocational sections we are teaching them Hindi also, we are teaching them maths also, but again when you talk about languages, for us it becomes very important for them to understand. So we work more on comprehension skills, we work more on vocabulary, so that a child when he goes out, suppose if he is reading a newspaper, he should understand that much. For us, teaching him verbs, adjectives, pronouns, teaching them creative writing is not that important as far as the comprehension is, So we really work on more on reading comprehension skills. In languages, in maths we work on functional concepts as we mentioned earlier also. In science we just talk about very general things, trees, uses of trees, human body, uses of human body, and then many other topics like this. And then in EVS we talk about some other topics like pollution, dust management, this, that, very general topics. And in addition to the curriculum, we also provide them community skills training. We take them out of the school, we teach them how to commute by the bus, we teach them how to commute by walking down the road, and we also teach them, we take them for shopping skills, we take them out of the school once in a week. They know how to shop within rupees 50, they should know their budget. So budgeting also becomes very important for these children. Along with it, they go for library training so that they can choose a profession, a vocation. I will not say a profession here, I will say it's more of a vocation for them, so that later on in their life they can earn this much to have that self confidence, to have that self dependence also. Yes, we can earn, we can do this. If I know how to make candles, if I know how to arrange books in the library, if I know how to arrange files in an office, so that way it's not only functional academic, but along with functional academic we work on other life skills also. Like we teach them home science. In home science, what becomes very important for us, that they should know how to cook, right? How to cook small things, like how to make a sandwich, or how to make nibu pani, or how to make and how to wash your clothes, how to keep your house neat and clean. So and we also work on safety skills, we also work on the self development by talking to them, by having small workshops, and sex education, on everything we have. That way we try to make the curriculum holistic.
Ma'am, like before having an entry into this program, like for the pre-vocational skills, do you also do the assessment part, like with this
Yes.
FACP, or with what scale you do that?
I will not say every time with FACP, but yes, when we assess them, we because they get the assessments from outside also. They get the assessment done from outside, like from clinical psychologists or from outside authorities also. And we have the IQ assessment reports also, we have the educational reports also. Along with that, when they come to us, we observe them in the curriculum, we really assess them in academics also, and depending on the assessments, we know that this child would not be able to do this much next year, this child will be able to do this much, or we can move him ahead. So depending on the academic assessment, along with other assessments, we decide.
And like these are for the children after 12 years of age, right?
Yes.
So don't you think those children who are like into the mainstream setup and who are like less than 12 years of age, they should be like at some point of the day or some part of the day, they should be like sent for the life skill programs, like for the personal and self-help skills into these setups, or like?
Yes, I think it is very important. They should also learn all this, but somehow our curriculum is made in such a way, like we don't have time for all that, but for but we include, we include workshops, we include many workshops, like counseling workshops. And then nowadays there are many channels in the TV, like National Geography channel, or there are other channels also. These people keep coming and going, and they keep talking to them about their career, about their future, about their subject choices, about the self development, about the emotions. We have mentors also in schools, in our school, like who talk to them about their emotional behaviors, about their the way they the way they conduct themselves in society, or in the school, or with their friends. So we try to incorporate that. But as a subject, if you talk about it, then for these children who are having such special needs, it becomes very important that they do it every day, they learn it every day.
Okay. So we talked about the life skills programs, in which we include the personal and self-help skills, the community skills, self-development skills, work behavior, and the vocational skills. And we talked about the functional academics, basic literacy, reading, writing, the basic concepts we should teach them. Now moving on to the next slide, what we are going to discuss.
Again, this is the task analysis of what we do, like with them. They can identify and react appropriately to traffic, sounds and signals, can avoid conversing or going anywhere with strangers, can take precautions on waterlogged roads and avoid danger during rides and processions by taking the assistance of someone responsible. Basically, we have broken the task here. In this presentation, what I am showing, we have really broken the task for each and every skill. So here this is more about commuting, like when we go on the road, what all precautions we need to take care of, what all is there which we really need to take care of. So
basically dividing these things into the steps,
Yes.
so that it's more easy for the child to learn.
it's easier for the child to learn, and we also know like from the simplest step to the simpler, and from the simpler to the simple, you know.
Right.
And then slowly we make him learn the complex things also. But again, like we do in special education, everything is based on that, breaking the task, making it more simpler, start from the simplest, so step 2, go on to the simpler, and then go on to the simple concept. So it is all based on that. We have broken the task, because suppose if I'm teaching the child to commute by aeroplane, but he doesn't know how to walk on the road, how to cross the road, what is the use of me teaching him commuting by an aeroplane?
Right.
Unless until he knows how to go on the road, how to cross the road, how to walk on the road, how to read important signs, how to read danger signs. Suppose if he is going by air, but he doesn't know what the danger sign is showing, so what is the use of him commuting by air?
Right.
So that is why we have broken the each and every task, each and every skill. Like here where we have broken the shopping skills, consumer skills.
Okay. So we'll carry on the discussion after a short break. It's time for a short break. See you after a while.
The state of knowledge exists. The will, the capacity, and method are usually the problem. मानसिक मंदता एक ऐसी विकलांगता है जो 18 वर्ष की आयु से पूर्व कभी भी हो सकती है, जिसमें व्यवहार अनुकूलता में कमी एवं बुद्धि क्षमता 70% से कम होती है। Alone we can do so little. Together we can do so much. भारतीय पुनर्वास परिषद द्वारा देश भर में पंजीकृत केंद्र इस बात को प्रमाणित करते हैं। NIMH प्रादेशिक केंद्र नई दिल्ली एक ऐसा ही केंद्र है जहां छात्रों को प्रशिक्षण दिया जाता है। जिसके उपरांत वे मंद बुद्धि बच्चों की सेवा में नियुक्त होते हैं। क्लासरूम टीचिंग, ग्रुप टीचिंग एवं भारतीय पुनर्वास परिषद के नव शिखर चैनल पर प्रसारित टेलीकॉन्फ्रेंसेस द्वारा संबंधित विषयों पर विस्तार पूर्वक ज्ञान दिया जाता है। मेडिकल, ऑक्यूपेशनल थेरेपी, फिजियोथेरेपी, स्पीच थेरेपी, साइकोलॉजी और स्पेशल एजुकेशन जैसे क्षेत्रों में छात्रों को प्रशिक्षित किया जाता है। प्रयोगात्मक अनुभव एवं अभ्यास के लिए टीचर ट्रेनिंग प्रोग्राम के उपरांत छात्रों को मंद बुद्धि बच्चों के साथ कक्षाओं में नियुक्त किया जाता है और इंडिविजुअलाइज्ड एजुकेशन प्लान का भी आधार बनाया जाता है, जिससे वे संपूर्ण शिक्षा एवं चिकित्सा शैली को समझ सकें। इस पूरे प्रशिक्षण कार्यक्रम के दौरान विद्यार्थी जर्नल्स, न्यूज़लेटर्स, पेरियोडिकल्स, चार्ट्स, मॉडल्स, कंप्यूटर ट्रेनिंग एवं टेक्स्ट बुक्स का उपयोग कर सकते हैं। कहते हैं, कीप योर फेस टू द सनशाइन एंड यू कैन नॉट सी द शैडो। इसी बात को ध्यान में रखते हुए विद्यार्थियों को सरकारी एवं गैर सरकारी संस्थाओं में नियुक्त किया जाता है, जहां वे मंद बुद्धि बच्चों के लिए निरीक्षण, प्रशिक्षण एवं अनुसंधान का दायित्व संभालते हैं और इसके पश्चात ये विद्यार्थी इस प्रशिक्षण का उपयोग मंद बुद्धि बच्चों के सामाजिक एवं शैक्षणिक उत्थान एवं विकास में करते हैं और एक लक्ष्य की ओर आगे बढ़ते हैं। और फिर लक्ष्य कितना ही दूर हो, फासला नजरों का धोखा भी तो हो सकता है। वो मिले या ना मिले, हाथ बढ़ाकर देखो।
हम होंगे कामयाब, हम होंगे कामयाब, हम होंगे कामयाब एक दिन। ओ मन में है विश्वास, पूरा है विश्वास, हम होंगे कामयाब एक दिन। We shall overcome, we shall overcome, we shall overcome someday. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe that we shall overcome someday. We shall overcome someday. We shall overcome someday.
This is Aparna. She loves chess and Shah Rukh Khan. Her best friend is Swati. She also has visual impairment. This is Neeraj. He plays many instruments. He loves Mohammad Rafi and cricket. He also uses crutches for mobility.
चंदा है तू, मेरा सूरज है तू,
This is Raj Bala.
मेरी आँखों का तारा है तू, जीती हूँ मैं बस तुझे देख कर।
With her husband and daughter. She loves cooking and watching TV.
सूरज है तू, आ मेरी आँखों का तारा है तू।
She also has cerebral palsy. Look beyond the disability. Look at the person.
Welcome back. Break पे जाने से पहले we have discussed about those children who are not able to get entry into the mainstream. What are the things which we should teach them? We discussed about the life skills program, in which the personal and self-help skills should be taught, the community skills, self-development skills, work behaviors and vocational skills should be taught. Then the functional academics, basically the literacy and the simple reading and writing, which the day-to-day concept which they can follow into day-to-day life, which have the usefulness in their day-to-day life. Then we discussed about the task analysis. Now we'll discuss about the task analysis of the consumer skills or the shopping area we'll discuss about. Over to you, ma'am.
When we are talking about shopping skills and we are talking about different steps which we include, to teach them shopping skills, this is again, I'll say that when we are talking about adaptation, this is also kind of adaptation, because in which mainstream school you follow this, no mainstream school or no mainstream curriculum has all these skills in place. But here, not here I'm not saying that in our school, in the special field, I'll say in a special field, in the special field of special education, we have really like we thought about the curriculum, we thought about the adaptation in the curriculum, and we thought about these skills, because we just adapted the maths. It is a kind of maths. In maths you learn about rupees, you learn about paisas, you learn about billing, you learn about complex billing, you learn about simple billing. But here when we are teaching children with special needs, we also look at billing. We also teach them how to make a bill, how to make a simple bill, or how to understand the simple bill, or or what is a complex bill, So before going on to that, before going on to teaching them complex billing or the simple billing, we talk about shopping skills, and these are the shopping skills which we need to incorporate in them, so that they know, they really experience the shopping, they really have that shopping experience. They go on their own, whether they buy something within rupees 10 or when they or they buy something within rupees 20 or rupees 50 or rupees 200, they should get that experience. They should look at the MRP first. So before we teach them shopping experience, we teach them to read MRP. What do you understand by MRP? MRP is the maximum retail price. What is the MFD? MFD is the manufacturing date. Like this, we teach them to read each and every important thing which is written on a carton, or which is there, which is important for them to know. Suppose if they buy something which is expired, or which is out of date, so what is the use of wasting your money on that? So along with the shopping skills, we also work on those small skills which we need to teach them, and then we go on to shopping. We take them out for 2 days in a week. We take them to a nearest shop first, then slowly to a bigger market, and then to a biggest mall, or then to one of the biggest malls also we take them, so that they can learn how to shop, how to buy things on their own. Like suppose if I read this now, it says that allows the caregiver to shop by staying close to the caregiver, not showing any disruptive behavior, can identify items sold at different shops. They should know that if I need to buy the medicine, I need to go to a chemist shop. If I need to buy clothes, I have to go to a garment shop, then can prepare himself to go shopping. Does he know how to go for a shopping? Does he have money? Have I kept the money in my wallet? Have I dressed up properly? Have I that way? And then can buy one particular item from the correct shop when given the exact amount of money. So we start, suppose if he needs to buy a chocolate for rupees 10, we start with by giving him rupees 10 only, so that he doesn't know, because at this point he doesn't know what is the balance, what money I need to take back, how much do I need to take back from the shopkeeper. So we give them the exact amount of money, so that they can buy a chocolate for rupees 10 only, because they have rupees 10. But at the same time they should know that if I have rupees 10, I cannot buy chocolate for rupees 20. So I need to have 10 rupees for buying a chocolate of rupees 10. That much understanding also should be there for them. Then can prepare himself, and then can purchase and carry different items separately and carefully, can go on his own to the appropriate shop depending on what he wants to buy. So that is why we teach them that different kinds of shops are for different purposes. If they want to buy a garment, they have to go to a garment shop. If they want to buy medicine, they have to go to a medicine shop. Like this, we teach them different ways. Then can make purchase within his budget. So for teaching him this, we need to teach him budgeting also. This is also a part of your functional maths curriculum. If they don't know that I have rupees 50, if they take out the thing which is for rupees 80 or which is for rupees 75, how would I buy if I have rupees 50 but I need to buy something which is for rupees 75? So at the same time we need to teach them all this, which is a part of functional maths curriculum, and which is a part of your, as you can say, adapted maths curriculum, along with the shopping skills.
मैम, ये जो आपने हमें बताया कि शॉपिंग स्किल्स जो हम डेवलप कराएंगे, तो इससे पहले जो लिटरेसी, अगर हम लिटरेसी स्किल्स की बात करें, फंक्शनल स्किल्स की, तो अप टिल व्हाट अमाउंट, लाइक यू सेड एमआरपी,
या,
तो अप टिल व्हाट अमाउंट, लाइक फॉर द नंबर्स वी हैव टू टीच देम, सो दैट it helps them in their shopping skills depending upon the ability of the child, or there's a certain limit up to which the
Look,
functional
again, it
academics is
depends
taught?
if a child is with your moderate retardation, moderate to severe retardation, how will you teach him 1000 rupees or 2000 rupees?
Right.
For him 5 or 10 rupees or maximum 20 rupees can be done with him, and that too with assistance, with support. He needs to be with the caregiver. But if a child with mild problems, then I can, then I can teach him slowly, I can try to make him independent. We can move towards the independence levels also.
Right.
So again, for each child, your goal, your expectation, as we said earlier also, it has to be very clear. Depending on the prognosis, depending on the abilities, your goals and instructions need to be very clear in your mind. Then only you will be able to teach him.
Ma'am, how much time it takes, like, for a complete transition, as you said, first to a nearby shop and then to a bigger shop and then to a bigger mall?
Again, as I will, like, you asking this question, so I will say that again it depends on that group whom you are dealing with. Suppose you are dealing with a group of children who are who are completely functional, then I think you will be stuck at a small shop only. But suppose if there are children who can go ahead, who are who have some kind of who have their levels where they can understand the maths, adapted maths of class 5, adapted maths of class 6. With them you can think of a big mall also, you can think of a shopping within rupees 2000 also. So it all depends on their abilities.
Okay. Then what is the next area which we are going to discuss after this consumer skills and shopping?
We can talk about use of public services also.
Okay.
This also we involve in our curriculum, and like can name and identify the different public services available and know their use, like hospital, post office, public telephones. Can locate the required public services by reading the symbols, signs or names. Where is the hospital, where is the hotel, like this. Then can correctly use the services that he is regularly exposed to, for example phone booths, gents ladies toilets, vending machines, ticket counters and elevators, because nowadays there are mall culture is coming up. And suppose if a child is going to a mall, if he doesn't know what the toilet is or where the toilet is written, or how will he recognize the signs, it would be difficult for him. If he doesn't know how to use an elevator, or where is the elevator, or where the elevator is, so then again he can face the problem. Or if he doesn't know where is the ticket counter, how can he buy a ticket for a movie, for watching a movie? So we train them in almost all the areas. We take them to a movie hall also, we take them to a small restaurant also, so that they know how to sit there, how to place an order. Suppose if it is written that self service, no service on your count, at the counter, or the only self service is there, then child should understand the meaning of self service. If the self service is there, he has to get up from his seat, he has to go near the counter. He cannot scream from the counter, bhaiya lao, bhaiya, why are you not getting it, place the order. So he should know these manners also, these social, socially acceptable manners which are socially acceptable. So he should learn about all this along with the use of public services.
And what are the prerequisites, like you told in the shopping skills that the MRP should be taught and all that? What are the prerequisites which are to be taught, like in the area of public services?
In the area of public services, prerequisites, I will say that first of all he should be aware of what kind of public services are there.
Okay,
What does the hospital mean? What does the hospital word mean? What does the hotel word mean? What does a restaurant word means? So like this he should know all this, and then he should be able to learn he should be able to read the symbols also.
Right.
If the symbol is like this, he should know that okay, this is a ladies toilet, or this is a gents toilet, or if the symbol is like this, he should know the symbol is for the danger sign.
Right.
So all those signs, all those symbols, uses of public places, awareness of public places become must,
And like what is an envelope or the postage stamp?
Yes, all that he should know, If he doesn't know the use of the post office, what is the use of taking him to a post office, and then you need to teach him everything.
So before doing task analysis, it's very important, like, to consider about the prerequisites which need to be taught into the classroom, and then the transition is to be
why we
made.
break the task. We break the task right from the simplest step to the complex step. They should know the simplest step first, and then they should move on to the complex steps.
Then besides this shopping and this public services area, would you like to discuss any other core area?
Okay, like we were talking about self-development, we also talk to them about their self-esteem. What do they understand by this word? What do they understand what they are, who they are? and we talk to them about their families also. We have regular sessions with them where we talk about different things, what they are going through, when and especially when children come in that teenage, 11, 12 years old children, they have many queries, they have many questions in their minds. We take separate workshops, growing up workshops we call them, and we do then we do involve our school counselors in growing up workshops. Sometimes we involve doctors also, so that children can understand what is happening in their body, what is happening to them, why are they changing all of a sudden, why is the voice changing, why is a girl growing up, why is a boy growing up, all that we cover.
And after the complete transition, like the child has learned this the life skills and the functional academics, is there a duty of the school like to be in touch even after the complete transition, or there are any self-help groups which to be allocated?
What we try to do, and this is again in the process, and we are again facing the problems. We will not say that 110% we can help the child in that way, but we are we try also, we try to make network with other organizations also, because when we are talking about the pre-vocational curriculum here, when we are talking about the functionally adapted, or we call it functionally adapted curriculum here, in this curriculum we cannot provide them the full vocational trainings,
Right.
so but we can really teach them in pre-work trainings, pre-vocational training,
Right.
I said earlier also, that library training. So we take them to a library, we help them to organize the books, we teach them to organize the books. Sometimes we have taught them to learn the photocopying also, how to do photocopy, how to organize the files, how to, there are many other things like how to sell what you have made. So these are the pre-work skills, and slowly we work towards the goal, and then we try to move them to a vocational institute also. If they cannot go for higher studies, like if they cannot go to a college, then what's the use of doing, then we really look at other organization who can work at their in the work skills area, who can really train them in 1 or 2 vocations. From there they can earn their livelihood.
Like you said, inclusive setup में जो भी है, ये जो pre-vocational scaling, like after the mainstream school it can occur. So the special educators which took up the mainstream children, they can be employed over there into this pre-vocational training part, or another lot can attend that. Like what is the system in your school?
Pardon, I couldn't get you, sorry.
Like initially, in the morning, the mainstream school is there. After that, the pre-vocational training goes on. So the special educators which are working with the mainstream children into the mainstream school, they are employed over, after the mainstream school, they are employed over to the pre-vocational training.
We have pre-work inside the school only, in morning hours only.
Okay, in morning
hours. We
do
not have in extra hours. After the school, we don't have it.
Okay.
We have it with the mainstream school, and we face problems also. This is what I think, it's not a very easy job, because when the time comes for integrating them in the field also, that time also we face problems. Sometimes we really feel that segregation is happening for those children.
Right.
They are really getting segregated, or they are really getting out of the whole school, because sometimes we have felt that they are not able to participate with the mainstream in races also, they are not able to participate in the mainstream assemblies also, in the mainstream special assemblies also, in the form evenings also, though we try a level best to integrate them in qawwalis or in songs, but when it comes to individual performance, like in a play, then we face that none of them is able to do it also.
Right.
But children who are having very mild problems like mild dyslexia, they are very smart otherwise, there is no other problem, and they are able to participate with the mainstream also. So yes, when we have children with moderate disability or moderate needs also, you can say, then we face problem in inclusion, and then we feel that towards the end of the day, they get segregated.
So that's all for the today's session. Would you like to add on more?
Not.
So that's all for the today's session, and I would like to sum up what we have understood up till now. Basically, we discussed today about the adaptations into the curriculum, the teaching methodology, and the infrastructure into the school for a successful inclusion. Initially, we talked about the basic difference between the adaptation and accommodation. If we go on to the adaptation, then we can say it basically means the modification. The modifications into the curriculum, into the teaching strategies, or we can say a simple example of that of a question paper. Like we can simplify the language into the question paper, or we can do that into the objective type or the multiple choice type. And if we talk about the accommodation, then we are basically talking about the compensation. Like the example of a question paper, In adaptation, we have simplified the language, we have made that into the objective type. But here, we can provide the child the extra minutes, we can provide the child a scribe. So the basic difference between the adaptation and accommodation, as we can talk about, is that of the modification and the compensation. In accommodation, we can also place the child into the second row, like away from the noisy section of the classroom. We can provide the increased worksheets, and we can provide the shorter assignments. We can exempt the child from writing the questions into the question paper or into the exam. We can have a buddy system or the shadowing system or the mentoring system. Then we discussed about the volume modification. In adaptation, we talked about decreasing the complexity of the curriculum. So in volume modification, we are going to talk about that only. Means we are lessening the topic and we are decreasing the complexity of the curriculum. And how we are doing it? We are doing it by selecting those topics which have usefulness in the day-to-day life and which have more applicability into the day-to-day life. For example, if we want to teach the child the circulatory system, it's not necessary to teach him the functions of the different chambers of the heart or the functions of different walls of the heart, but it's more necessary for him to understand the circulation of the blood into the body, what is the blood, and the basic function of the heart. So the basic concepts we have to teach which are more functional, more applicable, and have more usefulness in the day-to-day life. Plus we have to decrease the workload onto the students. Next, we talked about the complexity adjustments. In this, we talked about simplifying the difficulty level, focusing on one concept only, working directly with the child as on one-on-one teaching, then underlining the keywords and explaining the keywords. We can have the map minds also. Then reading out the questions and allowing the use of the computer. Then we talked about the intervention. It's a very important topic which we're going to discuss, the intervention, because it's very difficult to identify the child, a dyslexic child at an earlier age or an ADHD child at an earlier age. But with the advantage of an inclusive school, the teachers being more aware, and we are making the adaptations otherwise, so it's more easier to identify the child having the mild dyslexia or having the ADHD. So early intervention, not in the terms of academic skills but also in the terms of social skills, the emotional behavior is also very necessary, because ultimately the child, before developing the academic skills, is going into a play school or developing the social skills which are very necessary for developing further his academic skills. So these are also necessary in terms of the intervention as we talk about. Then we discuss the adaptations and seating arrangement. How we can do this? If we specifically talk about the elementary school, we can place the child, or the middle school, we can place the child into the second row or the first row away from the noisy section, and in the elementary school we can have the charts or the papers stick onto the walls with the bold letters. We can do that. We can have a separate corners into the classroom. We can have bars or the trails into the classroom for the hemiplegics or the physically disabled, so that they can hold on to them and they can move about. So these are some of the seating arrangements which can be done. Then we talked about the pre-vocational skills for those children above 12 years of age who cannot get an entry into the mainstream schools. For them, teaching the life skills and the functional academics is much more necessary. In life skills, we talked about the community orientation skills, we talked about the personality skills, we talked about the ADL skills, and in functional academics, the basic functional concepts which are necessary to apply into the day-to-day life, such as that of the literacy or simple reading and writing. These are to be taught, and this we discussed about the crossing the road. How can we task analyze these steps, the shopping skills, the public services, and before teaching all these skills such as shopping skills and the public services, it is very necessary to teach them the prerequisites. For example, in terms of public services, it is very necessary to teach a child what is a hospital or what is a post office. So certain prerequisites, they should be set by the teacher before task analyzing the whole the core area. So that's all for the today's session, but before that I would like to thank ma'am for coming over here and discussing with us. Thank you so much, and thank you viewers for maintaining with us. Thank you so much.